I recently finished watching the entirety of the original, the British, Office. I'd obviously seen bits of the show before, but I'd never sat down to watch all of the episodes consecutively. And, notwithstanding the virtuosic brilliance of the comedy, something really stood out to me. Something that conveniently helped me to crystallise some thoughts I'd been having for a while. It makes for no great insight to suggest that David Brent is an insecure man. Indeed, it seems reasonable to suggest that, in place of a definable personality, Brent has a set of competing insecurities. He demonstrates variously insecurity about his age, insecurity about his popularity as a boss, insecurity about his life's achievements, and insecurity about his ability to entertain. His complete failure to manage these anxieties provides the show's comedic thrust. In this fashion, The Office provides the perfect means for studying the nature of insecurity. David Brent is shown to be an insufferable individual. Those around him find his company barely tolerable. He is, indeed, insecurity's monster. As I mentioned, the show provided me with a sort of frame of reference, so I could set about recording some thoughts I'd been having about insecurity and its various effects. It seems to me that insecurity is a viciously poisonous force. Well, actually, I think that unchecked insecurity is a viciously poisonous force. For, I'm sure you'll agree, we all have insecurities, but we're not all raving monsters of anxiety like David Brent. This is an important point to make. The phenomenon I have in my crosshairs, the phenomenon I want to talk about in this video, is the type of insecurity one is unaware of. The type of insecurity one has buried to the extent that it's almost subconscious. It would be useful to look at David Brent again here. He acts with a strange compulsion and repeatedly finds himself in extremely awkward situations. His insecurity is the puppet master behind most of his behaviour. There are almost too many examples of this in The Office. The final episode of Series 2 seems to stand out particularly though. Brent is interviewed for a company magazine and shamelessly exaggerates his positive qualities, as he clearly feels that his true identity is lacklustre. The situation is excruciating, and we're forced to view Brent through the interviewer's eyes. He's a pathetic man. His insecurity is so ingrained that he is unaware of how farcical his behaviour is, as is often the case in The Office. I almost think of it like some symbiotic process. His feelings of inadequacy have never been checked, so they've infected every part of his conscious mind. He doesn't have the ability to reflect on his behaviour. This is exactly the sort of insecurity I am trying to isolate. The notion of compulsion seems important. Because the mind is paralysed by insecurity, and because, therefore, no form of self-reflection is occurring, an insecure person acts compulsively. The nerve endings of their insecurity will be twitched, and they'll act out straight away. This may take various forms, like when Neil Godwin performs an impressive dance for comic relief in The Office, which twitches David Brent's feelings of inadequacy, who then performs his own risible routine, which is met with disbelief from his colleagues. The line from wounded pride to excruciating outcome is clear to trace. His insecurity is so all-encompassing that he acts without careful thought. This is only a painfully obvious example of compulsive action. In normal life, it's often far more subtle. For example, someone might be insecure about their academic or professional prowess, so they might compulsively boast about their academic or professional achievements. Or someone might be insecure about how popular they are, so they'll force themselves into social situations and make themselves even less popular. Finally, someone might be insecure about their romantic prowess, so they'll obnoxiously ramble about all the people they've kissed. Of course, I could go on. The crucial point to take is that disagreeable behaviours can often be traced back to a deep-seated insecurity. And the more deep-seated an insecurity is, the more compulsive the resulting behaviour. This is not to say that insecurity results in exclusively compulsive behaviour. I'm all too familiar with situations where a person's insecurity leads to calculated unkindness. This is traceable in David Brent again. Think of the moment he discovers that his subordinates have given him the nickname Bluto behind his back, as a joke about his size. He deals with this unfortunate revelation by launching an attack on the weight of another character, Keith. Uncomfortable with attention being drawn to his weight, Brent clumsily throws someone else into the firing line. This unfortunate assault is badly miscalculated, as his words only make him more of a figure of ire to the subordinates he is so desperate to please. Truly, his efforts to satisfy his insecure instincts only make things worse. In this vein, unstable insecurity reminds me of Core 3 in Chernobyl. Self-consciousness will dangerously and toxically spin out of control if not handled with appropriate and sensible care, at great risk to oneself and one's peers. I don't mean to condemn the insecure as irredeemably awful people, by the way. Indeed, I count myself quite squarely among their ranks. I also don't mean to masquerade as someone with clinical or psychological knowledge, so please excuse the self-indulgence of this video. I merely hope to advise how one might ameliorate insecurity's negative influence, how one might avoid falling foul of insecurity's many pitfalls. Self-consciousness and anxiety might be unavoidable, but they don't have to make you an unpleasant person. The more you pander to your basest, most anxious instincts, the more you become like David Brent. That is to say, the more repugnant you are to be around, and the harder it is to rein your anxieties back under control. Don't let your insecurities puppeteer your behaviours and emotions. Think, rather, about this closing remark. Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote, "One must be a sea to receive a polluted stream without becoming impure." This is something we can all aspire to, I think. Having such a sound appreciation for our own individual merits that we are protected from any external influences which might invite insecurity. Insecurity might be viewed like Moby Dick in this metaphorical sea, in that it should be lived with peacefully instead of fanatically hunted and marked for conquer. For, as David Brent proves, the more manically you try to best your anxieties, the more control they ultimately exert over your actions. Meditate on the waters of your inner peace, instead of acting out like the office manager in question whenever you feel your insecurities to be provoked. This would be my advice.